Missed by 8 Inches by Lionel D'Souza is a saga of two friends from a remote Indian town, whose journey leads them to manage U.S. Army facilities in a war zone. The core of the narrative is the tragic demise of one friend and the wrongful accusation of the other for leading him to his death. More than a story of loss and injustice, the book is a testament to the unyielding strength of their friendship, detailing their solidarity, shared laughter, and mutual support amid danger. It is a tribute to the unsung civilian contractors who work defenseless in war zones, sacrificing their lives, and whose stories of courage and sacrifice are often untold. Readers will journey with the two friends, witnessing the strength of their bond and the weight of their sacrifices. Please watch the previous chapters to help better understand Chapter 17. We are now moving to Chapter 17, titled Goodbye from Missed by 8 Inches, authored by Lionel D'Souza. At the cemetery, George and I found ourselves relegated to the periphery, standing at a distance as the final rites were performed. The crowd of mourners, filled with family and friends, surrounded Andrew's coffin, their collective grief palpable in the air. We felt like outsiders, mere spectators at the funeral of someone we didn't know, despite the deep bond shared with Andrew. The sense of exclusion was profound, adding another layer of sorrow to an already heart-wrenching day. As the ceremony progressed, we could hear the faint murmur of prayers and the soft sobs of those closest to Andrew. The sight of his family, their faces etched with pain, was almost too much to bear. We stood silently, our presence a quiet testament to the respect and honor for our fallen brother. The distance between us and the ceremony felt symbolic of the emotional chasm that had opened in the wake of Andrew's death. After the crowd had dispersed, leaving behind a trail of tears and whispered goodbyes, CO George and I finally approached Andrew's grave where the coffin rested to pay our last respects. The cemetery, now quiet and still, seemed to hold its breath as we moved closer. It was a moment of profound solitude, a private farewell amidst the echoes of the day's sorrow. We each took a handful of earth, the cool soil slipping through our fingers, and let it fall gently onto the coffin. The sound of the earth hitting the wood was a stark reminder of the finality of death, each grain a symbol of the life that had been so abruptly taken from us. My final words to Andrew were whispered with a heavy heart. "I'm sorry, Andrew," a plea for understanding and forgiveness that I hoped would reach him wherever he was. It was a simple yet profound expression of the guilt and sorrow that had been weighing on me since his death. CO George, standing beside me, placed his hand on my shoulder, offering a silent gesture of support. His presence was a source of strength, a reminder that I was not alone in my grief. Together, we stood in silence, honoring the memory of our friend, brother, and comrade. The memories of all the joyful moments we shared, the sorrowful times we comforted each other, the challenging times we supported one another, and the worst times we stood by each other will always stay with me. Each memory is a testament to the bond we forged, a bond that was unbreakable and profound. The loss of Andrew has left an irreplaceable void in my life and heart, a chasm that seems impossible to fill. I find myself wishing over and over that I had taken his place on the truck, taken the bullet for him, and let him live instead of me. The thought haunts me, a constant reminder of the randomness and cruelty of fate. Andrew was a kind soul, a beacon of light in the darkest of times. His laughter was infectious, his kindness boundless, and his courage unwavering. He will always be cherished for the years we spent together, for the countless moments that defined our friendship. Though we were not related by blood, our bond was stronger than any blood relation, something that no one else could understand. We were brothers in every sense of the word, united by shared experiences and mutual respect. As I stood by his coffin, the weight of our shared history pressed heavily on my heart. I whispered final words to him, "Rest in peace, my brother. I will miss you forever," were a plea for understanding and forgiveness, a promise to keep his memory alive. The pain of his loss is a constant companion, but so too are the memories of the times we shared. They are a source of comfort and strength, a reminder of the bond that will never be broken. In the quiet moments, I find myself reflecting on the impact Andrew had on my life. His presence was a gift, his friendship a blessing. The lessons he taught me, the strength he showed, and the love he gave will always be a part of me. Though he is gone, his spirit lives on in the memories we created, in the bond we shared, and in the person I have become because of him. As we left the burial grounds, the weight of the day's events pressing heavily on our shoulders, we were confronted by Andrew's wife's family at the church gate. The atmosphere was tense, and the air was thick with unspoken emotions. Both George and I had prepared for this moment, but the uncertainty of how the crowd would react loomed over us like a dark cloud. We stood there in silence, our hearts pounding in our chests, bracing ourselves for whatever might come next. Andrew's father-in-law, his face a mask of grief and anger, stepped forward and broke the silence. "Now what?" he demanded, his voice trembling with emotion. The question hung in the air, heavy and loaded with the weight of their loss and the unresolved tension between us. Before I could muster a response, George stepped in. His presence was commanding, and his voice carried the authority of his years of service and leadership. "Andrew's contribution to the U.S. Army has been tremendous," George began, his words sounding like a eulogy at the church gates. He continued, "During some of the most difficult times at the base, we saw Andrew remain calm, always working with a smile." Although George's English and accent were not easily understood by many, they listened quietly, drawn in by the sincerity and respect in his tone. George went on, "One morning at the base, we faced a shortage of drinking water, and Andrew was leading the operations. The water would only last for the next 12 hours if immediate action wasn't taken. Andrew went above and beyond, securing approvals for an urgent purchase, coordinating with the vendors in Dubai, and loading 5 tons of water bottles onto an inbound flight. By 1600 hours, the drinking water was at the base. None of us were informed about the shortage. Andrew single-handedly arranged all the approvals, got the bottles delivered to the base in Dubai, and had them airlifted. Andrew was always a calm and peaceful person who never showed his worries to anyone but always smiled and did his work." The crowd seemed to soften, their anger tempered by the stories of Andrew's dedication and resourcefulness. George continued, "As per the contract, Andrew will be paid $1 million, which will be transferred to his next of kin. This process will be completed within 3 weeks from the time we submit the death certificate. Please send us his death certificate as soon as you receive it, and we will take care of the rest." George then turned towards the grave and concluded his words by saying, "Andrew, your contribution has been immense, and your service to the U.S. Army is commendable." He lifted his hand and saluted the distant grave for a minute, a gesture of profound respect and honor. The entire crowd, which had been angry, was pacified by George's gesture, and not a single word was uttered by anyone. The silence that followed was filled with a sense of solemnity and reflection. The tension that had initially greeted us at the church gate had dissipated, replaced by a collective acknowledgement of Andrew's service and sacrifice. George's words had not only diffused a potentially volatile situation, but it also provided a measure of comfort to those who needed it most. As we walked away from the church gate, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for CO George's presence and his ability to navigate such a delicate moment with grace and authority. His words had honored Andrew's memory and had brought a sense of peace to a grieving family. The journey ahead would still be fraught with challenges, but I knew that with CO George's support and the strength of our shared memories of Andrew, we could face whatever came our way. George stepped forward with a calm and composed demeanor, shaking hands with each of the family members. His presence was reassuring, a steadying force amidst the sea of grief and sorrow. When he reached Andrew's wife, he took her hand gently in his eyes reflecting the depth of his empathy and understanding. "Take care and spend the money wisely," George began, his voice soft yet firm. "If you need any help, reach out to him," he said, pointing at me. "He will always be there for you. He is not a bad person. He only wanted to give your husband a good life." Fate is already written and cannot be changed. Stay strong." His words were a balm to the raw wounds of loss, offering a measure of comfort and support. With that, he let go of her hand, his gesture a silent promise of continued support and solidarity. The family, though still enveloped in their grief, seemed to draw some strength from George's words and presence. As we stood there, the weight of the moment settled over us. The reality of Andrew's absence was a heavy burden, but CO George's words had provided a glimmer of hope and reassurance. His acknowledgement of the pain and his promise of support were crucial in helping the family begin to navigate their grief. The crowd, which had initially been tense and filled with anger, now seemed more subdued. CO George's actions and words had a calming effect, reminding everyone of the importance of unity and support in times of loss. His ability to connect with the family on such a personal level was a testament to his leadership and compassion. As we prepared to leave, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. CO George's words had not only comforted the family, but had also reinforced my own commitment to supporting them in any way I could. The day had been long and filled with emotional highs and lows, but as we walked away from the church gate, I felt a sense of resolve. The bond one shared with Andrew, the memories we created, and the lessons learned from him would continue to guide. I would face the future with the same courage and resilience that Andrew had shown in life. George looked at me and closed his eyes, signaling me not to speak any further. Understanding his silent command, I walked beside him to the car. Before we got into the car, we thanked the police and the embassy representative, though the escort from the police was until the airport, and we followed the cops until the departure doors of the airport. We both got in and drove away from the crowd, leaving behind the tension and grief that had enveloped us. George had handled the situation with remarkable professionalism and grace, diffusing the anger and providing comfort where it was needed most. As we drove in silence, I looked at George, my heart heavy with gratitude. "Thank you for your support and guidance," I said, my voice choked with emotion. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I struggled to hold them back. George, sensing my turmoil, reached over and held my hand. His touch was reassuring, a silent promise of solidarity and understanding. George then shared a small story, one that I had never heard before. "Look, my friend," he began, his voice soft yet steady. "My wife and I fell in love while working at the same company. We got married and had 2 beautiful girls who are now serving. But 5 years ago, during a combat with the Taliban, my wife's company of 12 was ambushed, and all 12 were shot at point-blank range. I never got to say goodbye to her." His words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of his own loss. "We were always at work and apart from each other," he continued. "During her death, I was posted elsewhere and didn't even get a chance to see her remains. The loss of a loved one makes a difference, but time heals. Don't take it to heart, and you are not a murderer as people say. Stay strong and let it go, or else you will not sleep at night." George's story was a poignant reminder of the shared pain and loss that binds us all. His ability to find strength in the face of such profound grief was inspiring. His words were not just a comfort but a call to resilience, a reminder that life, despite its hardships, must go on. As we continued our journey, I reflected on George's story and the lessons it held. The loss of Andrew was a wound that would take time to heal, but I knew that with the support of friends like George, I could find a way to move forward. The road ahead would be challenging, but I was determined to honor Andrew's memory by living a life that reflected the values and courage he had embodied. End of chapter 17. Subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon for more updates on the next chapters. Thank you for listening and subscribing.